setting new standards in podcast excellence. You have joined the WBT, fully focused on business and taxes. Here is your host, Michael Lodge.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Michael Lodge. I'm glad you have joined me. I'm always happy when you're here with me. Listen, today we're going to talk about some business aspects of what sometimes I hear in mediation. And I think that really you need to focus on, especially if you're in the real estate game. Because there's a lot of different issues that arise because people did not tell them the facts about the property. And I see it happening every single day. I am always interested in these kinds of stories. And the reason why I'm interested is because what I hear is people not doing due diligence, especially realtors not doing due diligence on the property in which they're trying to put on the market. I'll give you a good example. I had a client, this was several years ago, that I was listening to a mediation on. And I never know exactly the full story when people come in with their mediation. I know bits and pieces of it because that's basically what I've been given. But when I get my intake form, which finally details everything about the mediation, that's when I know a good portion of the story. But there's a lot of things in my questioning that I get more information in glean. Well, I was in this one mediation one time. And the realtor has sold this home to this couple. And the couple kept feeling kind of sick, kind of nauseous in their home. And so they decided, we're going to do some research on the home and see exactly if there's any history on this home out there. And on Google or on the internet, you can find something on anything. Well, they found out that their home that they had bought, a man had gone into the garage, shut the garage, took a gun, shot himself in the head, and all the brain matter had spread out all over the place. So bacteria had begun to grow. But they cleaned it up and did everything possible, but still bacteria began to grow because it got into cracks and places where the cleaners could not get to. There are companies that literally come out when people are shot or killed or commit suicide. That's all that they do is clean up after that type of disaster. But in this case, the cleaners did not get everything. So bacteria began to grow and they began to have health issues. So when they discovered this, they also found out that on the sales agreement and on the disclosure agreement, nothing was ever mentioned about the suicide in the garage, inside the house, with the doors shut. So it went into mediation. Because on all contracts of real estate, especially in California, it states that you have to go into mediation. You should go into mediation. And in fact, that's even required in most of the courts now, that you've got to go into mediation before it comes fully into the court system. But here's a situation where due diligence by the realtor was not taken into consideration. They did not do any, as a matter of fact. I think that if I was a realtor and I was going to take on a property, I would Google the hell out of that property, trying to find out anything about what type of crime had been committed there, if there was any bankruptcy, if there was any murders, if there was any gang activity, everything I could about that house. Well, this went into mediation. We finally were able to settle it out of mediation, and I think it went into arbitration. If I can't remember right, it's been several years now. But I know, as a matter of fact, it went into arbitration, and it was settled through arbitration after mediation. But don't you think it's very interesting? It's very important that there's and you have to realize, especially in California, but in other states too, that litigation alleging failure to disclose it has really increased over the last several years. Everybody wants to go into litigation because people feel that things are not being disclosed. A good example is in Tennessee. I heard another mediation where this family had bought this house and it was not disclosed to them, even at the time of inspection, that there was a crack in the sewer system. And that was causing an issue within the house. That should have been disclosed. In fact, it should have been investigated prior to buying the house. But it goes into litigation because failure to disclose. And California, I must say, in California, they probably have the worst litigation ever there because everybody is sue happy in California. In California, disclosure laws can be very black and white, but there are also a lot of these gray areas that need to be disclosed. And everything should be disclosed. I remind everybody that clients, especially reminding clients, you have to disclose anything that might affect a buyer's decision to buy their property or anything that might influence the buyer's offer amount. A good example would be a buyer would not want to offer the same price for a property if they were aware that the owner next door was getting ready to build a brand new house that will block out much of the home's sunlight. Or that the owner next door had 3 dogs that bark all night and all day while the owners are away. Those are the kinds of things that you really do need to disclose. Because what happened is the buyer might come back later and suggest that this information was known by the seller but not disclosed. And that had it been disclosed, the new buyer may not have purchased the property at all or may have only been willing to pay a significantly less price. So you don't want to put yourself in a position where a buyer can use this information or this non-disclosure information against you. The important thing to remember is you are only obligated to disclose what you know. And if you know certain items, you better disclose it. If you don't know it, then you don't have to disclose it. But you should try to find out as much as you possibly can and disclose it. Litigation is a long process. Mediation is a lot shorter. So a lot of these things go into mediation, then it goes into arbitration for the final decision. But if you don't disclose, you're going to spend a lot of time in litigation, and litigation is so expensive. So, disclose. Even if you're buying a car, even if you're buying a house, even if you're buying a log cabin up in Wisconsin, whatever you're doing, make sure that you have asked the question, has everything been disclosed? Is there anything that you're missing? Is there anything that the seller is missing off of this? Do a little investigation on the house. Has there been any complaints about that house? Has there been any complaints about the neighbors on either side that you're buying for? Now, if you're way out in the boonies in Wisconsin up by a lake, what do you ask for? There's a lot of mosquitoes flying around? Disclose that. No, I'm just joking. But make sure that you know the story behind the property and behind the people that are selling, and make sure that you're disclosing everything that you know about, because it will come back and bite you. Hey, I was just noticing that a lot of things are happening in business, right? I mean, if you look at business today, things are changing or trying to manipulate the way that things happen. But I was just noticing today that Oprah magazine, which has been one of the top magazines out there for quite a while, is going to stop all of its print publishing at the end of 2020. So I'm assuming that everything's going to be internet-driven with Oprah. And I think that's the way that the majority of these newspapers and magazines are going to have to go. Now it's going to be hard to sell those subscriptions. I also noticed that Target will be closed on Thanksgiving Day. And the reason is they're going to start the holiday selling in October, which I'm assuming everybody else is going to start selling in October because they want to get ahead of the Christmas shopping frenzy that goes on. I never get involved in that. I try to keep everybody down to a book. Honestly, I have been giving out books every single year for the last 4 years, I think. Because it's easy to go on to Amazon and just buy books that I'm interested in and I want other people to be interested in and send them off to them. So also, the new stimulus program that's coming out from Congress maybe today, or from the Senate, I should say, today. And I agree with this. What they're going to do is that they're going to lower that unemployment stimulus that you were getting at $600 a month. It's going to go down to $200. At least that's what's going to be proposed in the Senate bill today. Now, the Democrats are going to come out and say, oh, no, you need that $600. No, you don't, because you need to get back to work. The point is to get these companies back up and running, get the employees back in their jobs and getting to work and start doing real business. This $600 on top of the state unemployment, that's a lot of money. And we need to get rid of that big dollar amount of $600 and get it down to $200 and finally get people stimulized. Is it called stimulus? No. What would you call it? Encouraged to go back to work. A lot of people are just taking the unemployment, but they're not going back to work. And let me tell you, businesses need you. Businesses need you. If you look at the laws, what you have to do under this PPP is that you have to write a letter to your employees and you've got to make them a job offer and that you're going to keep them on and everything else. Well, a lot of those people don't want to come back because they're making more money on unemployment. So that has got to end, and I support the Senate on decreasing it from 600 to 200. Now, the problem, I'm self-employed. And when the coronavirus and everybody was shutting down everything, my business literally stopped. I mean, it ended. I went into Florida's unemployment because everybody said, well, if you're self-employed, you should be able to get unemployment. They denied me 3 times. So I'm thinking, well, what the hell? Because here I am self-employed and I cannot even get unemployment. Cut it off. Get everybody back to work. I'm happy to be back to work. I'm hearing more mediation cases. And I enjoy mediation because every single day I get to hear a new story. And I love these stories. I get to hear about families who are not getting along, or they're fighting about their father who has dementia, or it could be fighting about business issues between partners. It could be, it's a whole gamut thing. I can hardly wait every single day when I go into the office because I know I'm going to hear a really juicy story. But I also have the responsibility of bringing these two sides together and saying, come on, let's work it out. Let's resolve it. Let's come up with some options here that both of you can live with, and let's resolve the issue. And 85% of the time, it can be done. It can get done. Now, there are some people out there that are stubborn and they don't want to do mediation because they feel that they're right and they don't want to hear the other person's side of the issue. So they run away and they hide. I have one, in fact, I have 2 right now that's doing that. They just don't want to mediate. But you have to be willing to try to get these people to the table. And so that's why I say, listen, mediation is great. Mediation is one of those processes that everybody should be using instead of going into the court of law every single time. Because once you get into court, it will take a long time. Secondly, the attorney's fees and the retainer fees are huge. And sometimes you won't be heard for a year, maybe 2 years, depending on the backload of the court. So anyway, so that's just a little bit of a point of view of how I look at business. And I think that over the next few weeks, we're going to see a lot of change in business. We're going to see people saying, okay, Christmas is coming up here. We're going to tweak our internet sales and offers, and Americans are going to get some great deals. I just have a feeling this year is going to be the year of the deal. So those of you who are already polishing up your tennis shoes, making them stick to the floor to make sure that you can get a good grip on the floor to run to the next sales bin. I know what you guys are doing. You guys are practicing already. You're in your garages right now practicing how fast you can get to the next bin. Well, this year I think that you're going to be very happy because I got a feeling that you can get some good deals online. Let's just see what happens, but I've got a feeling. And here we are talking about Christmas in July. Or the end of July. Can you believe it? We're at the end of July. This is our final week of July. And we're into August. Then September, October, November, December. But remember, in November we're voting. Remember, your vote counts, your life counts, the nation counts. This is Mike Lodge. Listen, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, text me at 818-252-5682. Again, that's 818-252-5682. I love talking to you. I want to talk to you some more, and I'll talk with you later. This is Mike Lodge. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.